Hi, this is John Han with the Pulsing Cinema, and the Pulsing Cinema movie of the day is the 2005 independent film KatieBird Certified Crazy Person, directed by Justin Paul Ritter, an independent film from 2005, an early independent film shot in HD. I believe it was shot with some of those very new at the time Sony F900 cameras. I believe. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. I'm not sure. But a serial killer film, a film kind of about a family of serial killers, a father-daughter serial killer team to be exact. Many years before Dexter, of course. The film stars Elaine Uday, of the blonde who was in a lot of Canadian films. She was in My Bloody Valentine. She plays one of the people who gets killed, the nice-looking blonde who gets killed in My Bloody Valentine. She was in The Dead Zone, some other films. She plays KatieBird, who is a female serial killer. The film begins where she's mourning the death of her father, and she's torturing her psychiatrist and telling the psychiatrist while she's kind of torturing him and he's on the ground and she's towering over him, she's telling him the story of how she grew up and how she grew up to become a serial killer. Her mother died at an early age, and she was raised by her father, and her father kind of raised her in the ways of the serial killer. The father was doing something weird off in the woodshed, and eventually kind of brought KatieBird into it, and it's kind of the story of that. And KatieBird tortures and kills somebody locally, and begins kind of to become, she gets into the club. An interesting film, a multi-pane film. By multi-pane, I mean instead of just one image on the screen, the image is broken up into multiple panes, like panes of a comic book. And oftentimes, the same scene is playing out in different panes on the screen, in different, fractured in different colors, red, green, and blue, and or sometimes the one image is broken up and shattered into multiple panes, and that continues throughout the entire film. That the entire movie is done like that. And the thing is that multi-pane movies have never been successful. Multi-pane movies are, you could say that maybe there are a lot of mediocre films which used the concept of multi-pane as a stylistic gimmick, all right? And so the movie sucks, so that's why multi-pane films have not been popular, because it's been used by weak films as a gimmick, as something to hop them up. I disagree with that. I mean, Brian De Palma has multi-pane sequences in his films, but he hasn't, and people tolerate it, but you tell him they're not too crazy about it, and he doesn't go too hog wild about it like some films do. But if you go full multi-pane, it's like never go full multi-pane, because if you go full multi-pane, the audience is, off, they're off the boat, they're jumping off the boat, they're even, it's hard to even kind of think of multi-pane films because it seems like they are buried. You have to do some cinematic excavation. Multi-pane films I can think of are the 70s film Wicked, I think starring Carol Balling, I believe was her name, from the Candy Snatchers, or Tiffany Balling, sorry. Wicked, which had a lot of multi-pane sequences in it. Of course, Paul Morrissey's experimental film Chelsea Girls, which is not a buried film, but is not the most easiest film to find for years and years and years. Very obscure. Time Code, the Mike Figgis film, shot in HD from the late 90s. And even the original Ang Lee Hulk adaptation from the early 2000s. People hated that, People just hate multi-pane films. I think in a way, and even if they don't know that they hate them, I think they just dislike them. Because if you read the reviews for any of these films, the main thing that comes up in the reviews, the main things that comes up in KatieBird's reviews are the film is shot like this, and I don't like it, and it's unnecessary, and it's annoyance, and it's distracting. I don't think it's an annoyance and a distracting. I think it's just another cinematic tool in order to... It's a totally cinematic construct. It's something that can't exist in reality. We've got these two eyes. We're locked into this perspective. We're seeing, this Panavision frame here, this frame wrapped in front of our eyes, and we can't undo that, but you can with cinema. You can show things, you can connect strands of time, you can connect thousands of years within a minute. You can connect all of this imagery from multiple different perspectives. You can have the audience see like a lizard. You can have one camera here and the other camera behind. I mean, you can do incredible stuff with cinema. But the audience is so wrapped up in this thing that they have, and there is this contract. There is this implicit, silent contract that the filmmaker makes with the audience that what you're seeing, and this sounds stupid, this sounds like it doesn't make sense, what you're seeing is really happening, is happening in front of your eyes. This is happening, The audience doesn't see the edits. The audience doesn't see the cuts. The audience doesn't see the clever wipes and dissolves and all that. That goes out of the audience's mind, And really, the mind creates dissolves. Every day we at night we go to sleep, we fade to black. We wake up, we fade from black. Or in the case of some people, it's kind of like a shock, a flash from white, or other people just kind of black out. They're the hard cut at night, right? But, the transitions don't affect people. But when you start messing with multi-pane, once you start fucking with multi-pane, you start fucking with people's perspective. You start to break that implicit contract that what's happening in front of you is what's really happening, and people start to recognize cinema. People start to recognize the possibilities of film. It gets experimental. Even the most conventional narrative, KatieBird is a relatively conventional narrative. It uses the idea of the multi-pane in order to dramatize the fractured mental state of these characters, of these serial killer characters. This father serial killer played by Lee Perkins, who's kind of like a younger, hipper Ed Gein type. That's what he looks like. He looks like kind of like a farmer. And then KatieBird, who is a little more of a rock star, hip girl, and but is still kind of, out there. She has, as the adult version of KatieBird, she has the shocking white hair, very striking image. So KatieBird, the DVD is actually really good. Has a good commentary. Has a good documentary, which is basically Justin Paul Ritter saying, "Yes, you can do it. You can make a movie." It's a very affirmative, positive documentary that if you're feeling negative or feeling down, you can actually watch it, and it will cheer you up. So good job, Justin. I got cheered up on that many a time. I'm sure many people watched that and felt, even if they weren't making movies, they would, whatever they were doing, they got cheered up by that. And a good kind of original take on a serial killer film, and it was a film which lent itself to that kind of multi-pane stuff, and great. So give it a try. Get over your hang-ups as far as multi-pane goes, and check it out. KatieBird, definitely made in a kind of an uncomfortable era in the 2000s, 2005, before really just YouTube was starting here. I don't even think it had been bought by Google. Even very difficult to even find a trailer for this movie. There is one at KatieBirdTheMovie.com, and even Heretic Films, the original distributor on DVD, my God, you can't even find... I mean, now you look up Heretic Films, and there's this other company, Heretic. I don't even think it's connected to the original Heretic. And it's got, Kevin Pollak and Jason Alexander, and they're trying to make these independent films. But the original Heretic films was cool. You know, they did that movie I'll Bury You Tomorrow. And they released a few other things. Head Trauma, I believe they also released that. They had a slate of really inventive little independent films in the early 2000s. So there it is, KatieBird, Certifiable Crazy Person. A good movie, definitely worth a watch, definitely worth hunting it out on DVD.